What's up, guys? Mark back here with yet another Sony A6300 video, and on today's show, I wanted to finally answer a question that I'd been receiving quite a bit here on the channel, and that was, what is the difference between the RAW quality, if any, between the Sony A6300 and the Sony A6000? So I want to answer that for you guys today. Let's take a look at a few examples. Okay, so starting off, we've got this picture of the Imperial forces behind a black, white, and gray card. This particular shot was done at 6400 ISO. I just went on and skipped all the ones before that because, honestly, I don't think that there's that much of a difference overall. So let's go ahead and take a look at this at a 2:1 ratio. Let's pixel peep, shall we? You all know how much I love that. But the first thing I want to point out is how much darker the grain pattern is on the Sony A6000 as compared to the Sony A6300. The whites stay much more brilliant and flawless than the Sony A6000. They just don't look as dingy, in my personal opinion. So your eyeballs and your teeth when people are smiling and you're taking portraits. So this is going to be a much better option for you if you're heavy into portraiture and you don't want to constantly be trying to brighten the eyes or brighten the teeth and stuff like that. If we go ahead and take a look at the grain pattern in the gray, you can tell how much darker the grain pattern is on the Sony A6000 as compared to the A6300. It's significant enough that, you know, if you don't just absolutely love the sort of texture of the grain pattern, you might want to start leaning more toward the A6300. If we take a look over here, even on a different material in white, you can tell how much darker that grain pattern is. It's pretty significant. If we take a look here in the blacks, I think that the A6300 holds detail quite a bit better in the darker areas than the A6000. I think that's kind of to be expected, though, overall, because of the better copper wiring that's in the camera. You know, it's just new tech, so it's going to do things a bit differently. So same sensor size, same megapixels and everything, but the architecture, the copper wiring allows for better light transmission. So I just think that that was probably to be expected. Let's go ahead and check out now this is at 12,800, I believe, ISO. You can seriously tell the difference in the darker areas. We're really starting to lose some detail over here in the cheek area of Darth, and now that grain pattern in the shadowy area is really starting to rear its ugly head. I gotta be honest, though, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's that bad. I actually like the grain pattern from these Sony cameras. I know that a lot of people would probably disagree or think that I was crazy, but I actually like it. I don't know why. Okay, so this shot here was done in, what, 25,600? 25,000 something or another. Anyway, this is where you're really going to start to notice the biggest differences between the Sony A6300 and the A6000 is when you start getting up into extremely high ISOs. The A6000 starts to turn all of your blacks into sort of like a bluish magenta color. You can start to see it here on Darth, whereas the one on the left, the A6300, it seems to remain more neutral. I remember this sort of bluish magenta color from all the other DSLRs that I've used in the past, where you start to get that artifacting, that sort of bluish tint in your darker areas. It's not horrible, but it's enough that if I wasn't going to convert that photo to black and white, I probably would just go ahead and discard it. But I gotta be honest, the A6000, if it wasn't for that bluish color, I would probably still use this. I like the grain pattern enough that I think that it looks filmic enough that I would probably still use it. I don't think that it's that bad. I think that the Sony A6000 holds up relatively well. I mean, it is 2-year-old tech, and we're talking aluminum wiring on the sensor and everything, but I still think that it's not bad. Where you really start to run into problems is in lines and details and stuff like that. It starts to break apart because if we zoom in, let's go to 2:1. Here you can see where the detail on the lines really start to break up. These lines here, the line on the handle, it starts to really get muddy on the A6000. So if extreme detail is very important to you, let's just say that you hardcore landscape photographer or something like that, and you want the the lines to be perfectly defined, then you're probably going to want to start leaning more towards the A6300. So let's take a look at another example. Okay, so this is a shelf shot. This was shot at 1600 ISO. So 9 times out of 10, I try my damnedest not to shoot above 1600 ISO. It's not to say that I won't, but I try not to. I try to light my scene appropriately, and if I need a little extra boost, then I'll go ahead and give myself that, but I try my best to only shoot 1600 or below, at least when I'm doing stills. And you'll notice, maybe it's just me, but I seriously think that maybe the Sony A6000 has some sort of maybe like post-sharpening process applied. It could be a number of different factors, but it does seem like the A6000 resolves extremely fine details just a smidge better. I'll let you guys ultimately be the judge, but the difference between the two are nowhere significant enough to make me go, damn, you know, that one is definitely the one to be buying right now. I don't see a large enough difference between the two that I could honestly say the A6300 for stills is worth the upgrade. Let me give you one final example. Okay, so this is a shot that I took yesterday. High contrast, extreme brights on the right and darker on the left. As a matter of fact, let me swap this real quick. Okay, so A6300 on the left, A6000 on the right. And as you can tell, I can't honestly see enough of a difference to go, you know, this is the camera to be buying. I can seriously say that the A6000, to me, looks just a smidge bit sharper. I'm not for sure why, because I use the exact same lens in the exact same conditions on the exact same day, about 5 minutes apart. And at a 1:1, it doesn't look like there's been any sort of post-sharpening in the extremely fine details. So I don't know if there was maybe an algorithm on the Sony A6000 to kind of make it look a bit sharper than what it really was, or if maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me. Again, I'll let you guys be the judge, but I don't see enough of a difference between the two cameras that I would be willing to say, yes, the extra $500 for the A6300 is worth it. Now, I do also want to say that you can apply picture profiles to your still images on the A6300 that you cannot apply onto the A6000. So if you need extremely high dynamic range, you can apply S-Log, you can apply S-Gamut, you can apply Cine, you can apply S-Log 3, you can apply those picture profiles to your still images and vastly increase your dynamic range. I think that that would be the only reason that I would be willing to say, yes, the $500 extra of the A6300 makes it worth the upgrade. Then, of course, there's always you guys out there that do video. If you are a video and photography guy and you want the best of both worlds, I think that the A6300 sits so perfectly right there in the middle for both video and photographs. If you want a smaller file size for weddings or engagements or anything like that where you're going to be taking high volume photography, the Sony A6300 sits really nice in that area. We're not talking extremely high megapixels if you're not just doing you know, sit down portrait style photography, and if you're not doing hardcore video all the time where you're constantly basically just trying to shoot in the dark. Those are highly specialized tools. But the Sony A6300 sits really nicely right there in the middle. But as far as just straight up stills quality, image quality, it's not enough for me personally. Without those video upgrades, I think the RAW quality and the JPEG quality on the A6300 is just about the exact same. The only difference to my eyes being that the grain pattern is much more neutral and much lighter in color on the A6300 than it is the A6000. I think that that's probably a subjective difference. Some people might really like it one way or the other. I like them both, and I would probably use both in different situations. So if this video helped you guys out, make a better and more well-informed decision, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Share the video on the internet with your friends, family, colleagues, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. At any rate, guys, thanks again for stopping here at the Photo Video Show. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and I will see you guys again on the next one. Peace.